It's like fishing. You have to put yourself out in the water like bait in a way where you're findable. So motivated sellers will find you. There is no such thing as a bad deal. You're either going to capture the equity of a motivated seller, or you're going to learn something.
Are you guys surprised that we can buy a house with equity in one phone call with terms?
I don't care what happens, I don't care what they say, you just stick to this script.
The real estate world is changing. Opportunity is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the very best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform our business. This is Investor Creator.
Guys, we're going to go ahead and get started with this video case study. So for those that don't know me, my name's Brad Smotherman, and this is really part two of an episode that James and I did really beginning of the year. So the first 57 days of this year, we captured $1 million worth of equity. And we were really happy with that. But I was really looking at everything. And I was looking at the systems, like the marketing systems, and I was looking at the labor, the team that we have. And really, we weren't redlining quite yet. So I made a decision to really shoot for $1 million a month in equity capture, because I never really knew anybody that's done that, and certainly nobody that's done it consistently. And I thought, gosh, our systems are working, we're not overrun, and so I thought maybe we could do it. And so we made the decision to shoot for it in April, to shoot for it, I think in May, right? May, we missed. I think we captured somewhere around $850,000 in equity, something like that. June, we hit it. And so I remember specifically where I was. We had the goal for $1 million in June, and we were somewhere around like $960,000. And it was the last day of the month. And you'll remember this too, Tony. So I was riding back from Atlanta. We have a deal in Atlanta. And so I was riding back from Atlanta, and I was on the interstate, and it was like 7:30 p.m. Central Time. We had like 4 hours left, but we had 5 or 6 contracts out, like maybe 3 of them were yours and a couple of them were Tony's. And I remember I got an email DocuSign. So a lot of what we do, we buy remotely, because we found that we really don't have to go in person anymore. So I remember the email came in, and I remember thinking there were 3 of those 5 contracts that were out there that would put us over. And this was one of them. It was a $100,000 net deal. This was Greenville.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember that I had this kind of an interesting moment. I was driving, and I shouldn't be talking about this on camera, looking at my contracts while driving. Don't do this at home, kids. But I remember that I was like, oh man, we did it. And it was kind of like this mountaintop moment for about 15 seconds. And so the next thing I thought about was, well, I wonder what we can do next month. And I have to kind of slow myself down to a certain extent, because I'm always kind of trying to push things and do more as opposed to enjoy the moment. And I don't recommend that. Like, enjoy when you have a win. But the next month, which was July, last month, we did $1,130,000 in equity. So the first month we did approximately $1,030,000 in equity. That was June. July, we did $1,130,000 in equity. And so we really just wanted to revisit this as a case study and look at it as like how we did it, the systems that we have, the marketing that we have. We're going to talk about the deals. We have a new team player with us today. So it was me and James last time. We got Big Tony with us today, and we're going to have fun with this. So I think it's going to be valuable for you. Super casual. We're just going to talk about deals, and this is what we have fun doing every day. So without further ado, let me introduce the team. I've got Big Tony Woodall with me to my right. Tony's been with me for, I guess, ever since we really began to scale. Tony, what, 6, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I think it's 7.
Yeah. So a long time. Tony was the first person to really join this with me.
Kind of the first apprentice?
Yeah, in a big way, because Tony's done a lot of deals himself at this point. And Tony's background was in ministry for a long, long time and then healthcare consulting. And so he's very, very good with people. And he's done a lot of his own deals. He does rehab deals. You got a deal closing on your own street right now, don't you?
Yeah, about 4 doors down.
Yeah, 4 doors down, walking down the neighborhood, for sale by owner sign, and you're going to lick what on that deal?
Probably 40, 45.
Yeah, so the deals are still out there, guys. They may be on your own street. Last but not least is James Garland. James has been with me for about a year. James came from the corporate world for about 33 years, something like that. Yep. And decided to get into this with no real estate investing background. But most of the transactions, certainly this year, have been from James. Tony has been running rehabs up until really last month, maybe a month and a half.
I was once a superstar in this business till this fella came along.
Well, that's how it goes. So anyway, we're going to have fun with this. So I guess first question, I asked this last time to James, and I'm going to ask it to both of you guys just to kind of kick things off. So are you guys surprised at what we're able to do? Because I mean, everybody's talking about, I can't find motivated sellers right now. There's no deals in the market. And here we are, we're doing $1 million plus per month consistently in equity position. And before you answer, let me define what that means. So a lot of people talk about sales, like, oh, I've got $1 million business. Well, that doesn't mean anything in this business, right? I mean, $1 million in sales in some markets, I mean, could be one house per year or, 2 or 3 per year, depending on median pricing, right? What we're talking about whenever we're talking about equity capture is our expected sales price minus the cost to sell minus cost of goods sold. So we're talking about a true gross profit number. Now, is that a true net number? No, it's not. So we have an office here. We've had to upgrade offices since the last video series or the last case study video on what we've been doing. We have more team members now than we did. I'm going to do a separate video on the team, what the structure looks like. And one thing I'll submit to you guys, the more team members I have, the faster we go. Mm-hmm. And so I think like as a net cost, I've talked to you guys about this, that the team members aren't really a net cost to us at all. Like they're really providing so much value to the business that they really pay for themselves to a big extent. So we can talk about that another day.
Pretty immediately.
Yeah. I mean, almost instantly. So like, the bookkeeper, Abby, I hate to say bookkeeper, she's far more than that. Oh, yeah. But, Abby will catch things on invoices that 100% pays for her salaries. James and Tony in acquisitions, I mean, if they create 1 or 2 more deals a year than what I could do on my own because they're available and I wouldn't be, then they're paying for themselves. Grace is our new transaction manager. And so she's doing transaction coordinating on all of the purchases and sales. She's looking at the HUDs like line item by line item where I wasn't doing that. So she's catching things that I wouldn't have caught. And so it's really an interesting study. We'll go through that another time, but that's kind of the high points of it. But in this market, are you guys surprised at the deals that we do? We'll go with Tony first.
No, I don't think so. You mentioned people are saying they can't find motivated sellers. Well, you don't find motivated sellers. If you're trying to find motivated sellers, you're the one that's motivated. And if you're motivated, they've got the leverage. It's like fishing. You have to put yourself out in the water like bait in a way where you're findable. So motivated sellers will find you, which means that without even realizing it, you have the leverage unless you turn around and give it back to them.
Making an offer.
By making an offer and chasing them down. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's been, in one sense, you hate to find that many motivated people that need to do something with their property. And if they're just trying to save 6%, on real estate fees, then that's not the motivation. That's not motivation.
Yeah, that's not motivation.
And so you hate for anybody to be in trouble with their house. But there is something worse than them being in trouble with their house, and that's if they lose their house and they have no way to do anything else. So the fact that we're able to help them get out of that position and help them move on to their next place is really a great benefit to them.
Yeah, and to jump into that really quick, one of the things that I've seen really in the past 30 days that we haven't seen for a year and a half, for the first time in that time, we're starting to see financial motivation. So with COVID, we had the forbearance plans that were really rampant in the market. And so I don't remember the exact numbers. I know it was roughly 200,000 foreclosures happened in the year 2020, which is about 1/5 of what's typical. in this kind of a market, even a healthy market. And so a big chunk of our business really went away. It's coming back with a vengeance. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Sellersburg. That was a pre-foreclosure.
South Pittsburgh.
South Pittsburgh. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of pre-foreclosure deals that are starting to come in, and these are big equity positions. So, I mean, a little goes a long way with those. James, any thoughts on what you're seeing with the lead quality? And everybody seems to talk about there's no deals out there, and that's just not what we see.
No, it's not what we're seeing at all. You know, the funny thing is, when you talk about motivation, you got to find that motivation sometimes. You know, they're not just going to pop out and tell you, you know, what's going on. So if you stick to that script and that almighty question, you know, tell me a little bit about the place, kind of what you got going on with it. And then next thing you know, they just start talking, and then you just listen, and then you'll find their motivation. You'll find whether or not they're motivated or not. A lot of times it starts with, just give me an offer, you know, and that's all I need is an offer. And then you have to stick back to that script because it's so tempting to just, you know, try to make the deal work. So you stick to that script, and then they come back and they tell you the motivation. And that's really the key issue, because if you're not motivated, we're not going to get the deal.
Yeah. Let me, and I'm going to start to go off in left field for just a second. I really like this stuff, really lights me up, because everybody's out there making offers. Guys, we can't make offers. If you're making an offer, Tony really said this well, is if you give someone a yes, no answer, then they hold the power. And I've never heard it put exactly that way. The reason that we don't make offers, two main reasons. Number one, if you're making offers, you're going to get shopped. And if you've been in this business for a while and you made an offer and then you called back to follow up and they got $1,000 or $2,000 more, you got shopped. Okay. That doesn't happen when you don't make an offer. So they make us an offer and we decide to accept it or not. Okay. We can whittle away at that number based on how we negotiate. The second reason is that if you're making offers, your best deals are getting worse. So one of the most egregious examples of this, we had a deal in Summerville, Alabama, and you rehabbed that one. We called it the flea house because it had the worst flea infestation that I've ever had. I'm going to tell myself real quick. So I went into this house. The house had already been treated for fleas like 2 or 3 times, and I thought, oh, it'll be fine. I looked down, and from my knees down was just covered. And so like I ran out of the house. I took my pants off in the backyard, and they were still jumping on me. And so I'm like, well, I look like a fool now, but I had a bottle of 4 Roses single barrel in my trunk. And I just thought about it like rubbing alcohol to get rid of these damn things. And so I started pouring this single barrel 4 Roses on my legs to get rid of these fleas. And so I left my pants in the backyard and I drove from Alabama back home to Nashville. And then I thought, what am I going to tell a police officer if I get pulled over here? You know what I mean? Like, how's that going to work? Like, officer, I have a crazy story. You're not going to believe it. I know I smell like liquor. Haven't been drinking. Luckily, that didn't happen. But here's the deal. So we bought this property for $15,000. Okay, we sold it for, I believe, $235 or $240, something like that. Carl Randall, shout out to you. He was our agent there in Huntsville. So I never would have had the gall to offer $15,000 when she had paid $160,000 for it, like 6 or 7 years prior. But $15,000 was her number, and we were agreeable with that. So if you're making offers, like, number one, you're getting shopped. Number two, your best deals are going to get worse, right? So you're going to leave more money on the table than you're making if you start to do things like that. So motivated sellers are important. That's what everybody is focused on right now. It's one part of 3. So like, we have to have good motivation with our lead flow. That's people coming to us, asking us to buy something. We're not out there reaching out to people, asking them to sell something. And then the second part of this is negotiation. So we can have really good lead flow, but if we have a really janky negotiation script or no script at all, which is even worse, we're not going to be as good as we could be at capturing those leads and capturing that equity. And then third is deal structure. So one of the things that may become a little bit convoluted because we don't have a whiteboard, we're not going through things in depth with some of these deals, is how we're taking over payments, how we're getting 0% on our financing, how we're able to make a good deal in price even better with terms. So if we don't have all of these things in our business, then we're going to have a tougher time, right? So let's just kind of jump into it. Let's talk about some of the deals. And what was the first deal of the month?
Well, Tony, the first one I got was Santa Maria Court down in Jonesboro, Georgia.
Well, since you right now have been buying 3 houses to every one of mine, I would say it was yours. So go.
Well, you know, this deal was a sub 2 deal. We took it 96 sub 2 with only 1,000 on walkaway, which seemed to be pretty good. It was a health issue. The mother and father both was deteriorating health, and the daughter was the one that reached out to us. You know, we ended up having to pass on this deal. You know, we got the home inspection back, and it was one of the worst ones I've seen in a while. So when we added it up, what it was going to cost to make it right, it just wasn't affordable for us to do that deal. So we had to pass on that deal. So that was the first one. But pretty excited about it at first until we got that home inspection.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody bats 1,000. So we're going to put stuff under contract that makes sense day one. And this is one of the main, I think, errors that I see in the market is people want to know, exactly what the balance is, exactly what the repair cost is, those kinds of things. We're going to have a good Wrigley Field ballpark perspective on what that is. And we're going to make decisions based on that. Nobody's going to know everything until we have a home inspection. I mean, I don't go underneath houses and I haven't for a long time. And frankly, I wouldn't know what I'm looking for anyway. These guys aren't doing that either. I mean, really, we're buying stuff just strictly on the phone at this point. And I think out of the whole year, we might have less than 10 that we bought in person, something like that. Although Bradyville, I know you did, and McMinnville, which both of those were killer deals we're going to talk about. But we were happy to sign it up day one. And if it falls out in due diligence because we find out something we didn't know, then that's just how it goes, right? So we don't get hung up on the losses because the wins far outnumber that. So let's go to deal number 2.
Well, the second deal is a good deal. We just closed on that this past weekend. South Howe down in Chattanooga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Tony went over there and took a look at it.
Yeah.
And it was 500 square feet bigger than we thought?
500 square feet bigger. It has an upstairs that we didn't even know about. And, it's even pretty clean, right, Tony? I mean,
it's very, very clean.
We
You're going to do very little to it.
He started off with Brad originated the triage call on that one and then passed it off to me. And we got him down to 128, all cash. Exit out, we thinking around, 250, something like that.
And our rehab is
10 at most.
10. Yeah. I mean, that's killer. I mean, that's really nice. The funny part about this one is we have a newer guy helping with acquisitions, Drew, and Drew is in here training with us. And I was telling him about the triage call and how it works. We had a lead come in and me and James were sitting at the table with Drew and a couple other team members. And so I decided to run the triage and just kind of see where it went. And it was really funny because I asked him what he was wanting at closing. And he said, well, I would take 140, I believe he said. And I didn't say anything. And I paused and I let him feel that tension. And he said, but I'd probably take 120. And so it was really funny for Drew to see that really day one in terms of the power of the script. So that was a fun one. And a deal that we would do many, many more of based on that.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
And by the way, on good deal, there is no such thing as a bad deal. You're either going to capture the equity of a motivated seller or you're going to learn something. So I would encourage you to, when you hear yourself saying, all my leads are bad leads. Well, what that tells me is that you're not learning anything. So you got to stay focused on those leads because none of them are bad. You're either going to get better or you're going to capture some equity. It's not about, I'm a house flipper or identity and all that stuff. It's about capturing equity. We're not even really in the real estate business. If we could make more money on athletic socks, we'd be flipping athletic socks.
That's the truth.
It is.
It'd be a lot easier.
Yeah, it's about capturing equity. So anyway, go ahead, brother. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's good. I think you're on the next one.
Okay. Well, and these aren't in order either, so I don't even know when they were. This one's 9th Court West, Birmingham, Alabama. So, which I used to hang out in that neighborhood when I was a kid because it's in the same neighborhood with Legion Field down in Birmingham where...
Oh, heck, I didn't know that.
Where the Crimson Tide used to play football. Roll Tide. Anyway.
By the way, hang on. I don't mean to interject here. I was at a closing with Darla, and I was telling her about, I think it was Howell. I was telling her about the deal there. And I was telling her about this equity position that we picked up, and she said, roll tide.
That's exactly.
And I didn't know that was a saying in Alabama, hey, that's great, or something like that. I was like, wait, it really took me off guard.
Right.
All right, sorry, I just, so if y'all hear that,
if you're from Alabama, you can say roll tide is just a saying. That's like, heck yeah. But if you're from Alabama and you're charismatic, it's either roll tide or Holy Ghost. Either one of them will work. So. All right, so 9th Court, it's in an older neighborhood, probably 80, 85 years old, brick home. It's on a corner lot. But, when you're first getting there, all you're seeing is everything grown up around it. The brick is a dark color, so it doesn't look big at all sitting on the lot. And there's trash all over the place. But in that neighborhood right now, they have been rehabbing for some time. About 2 blocks in one direction, there are rehabs everywhere. This is kind of the end of that rehabbing before you get down to a high school and this big football stadium. But past it, they also have 3 or 4. So the ARV on it was speculative in the beginning because of the area it was in.
It's transitioning.
Transition for sure. So, what I just stayed focused on though was, how can I help this person who is motivated pass that burden off to me? And so it turned out that she felt like she knew what she needed, which was going to be about 72 at the time, and 72 at closing. There was a lien involved in that 72, but it turned out it wasn't enough for us to take it subject to, so we just are paying cash and getting rid of it as well. The rehab on it is going to be 20, 25 at the most. We have settled on somewhere around 200 as a conservative estimate on our exit. And I like a lot of times settling on a conservative estimate on our exit. We can be surprised by more. You just never want to be surprised by less.
Correct.
So it turns out we were a little edgy at that spot. So when we met and I pitched it to Brad, he pitched it back and said, we're going to have to do better than that. So I went back to our seller, our motivated seller, and explained to them the situation I was in because of the part of the neighborhood I was in and some of the extra stuff we were going to have to do to it. And stuck with the script. I'm just basically going through the script again. Same script I went through the first time.
Because the numbers changed.
Because the numbers changed.
Yeah.
And I asked, what is the least she could do? And she said, I could do 48, which that's cash to her. The lien was 10. So she dropped it $12,000 just like that. I asked her one more time, knowing what we're going to do, is that the best you can do on it? And she said it is. So I said, okay, that's fine. So we took that one. So the ARV is a conservative 200, all cash at 58 with a rehab of 20 to 25. So we're in good shape.
Yeah, we're in good shape. And whenever we're in transitioning areas, we have to be really conservative. So like Tony says, I mean, sometimes I feel like it's okay, but we have a lot of deal flow. Like we have leads that are coming in. I'm going to show my ads account here in just a minute. But I mean, we have the ability to be a little bit picky. We don't have to push to try and figure out how we can make something work. We want to disqualify things. So it's like, here's the numbers. What holes can I poke in this to where it doesn't work for me anymore? And if it passes that litmus test and people say things that cause us to buy a house, then that's fine. We can do that. But overall, I'm really happy with that. So what else?
I'll share a little one now, Calera, Alabama, which, to be honest with you, I was out. This one came in with my name on it. James did the entire deal and then just handed it to me. So I told him I owed him a steak. I'm still waiting for him to forget about it so that I won't have to, or take him to get a sack of Crystal One. So this one, ARV's 120 on it. Walk away is 40,000. Rehab's around 20, 25. I mean, it's an easy little deal. So
what was the numbers again?
120 is the ARV, I think.
Okay.
Walk away's 40. Rehab's about 20.
Okay. So we're at 50% of value.
Yeah.
And that's safe.
Yeah.
So we're good with that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're seeing in the markets right now is, for a long time, so I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee, but we do deals in Nashville, Orlando, Atlanta. We've done deals in Raleigh. I mean, 23 or so states.
Savannah, Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. Really
Kentucky.
all over the Southeast. Yeah, Kentucky, we got deals there.
North Carolina.
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio, we closed one there. We could go on and on, obviously. But one of the things that we're seeing is the metros have been hot for a while. So like Atlanta and Charlotte and Nashville and all these markets, Birmingham to a certain extent, have been hot for a while. But, so like Nashville's a really good example. You had pockets that were hot and then the whole city got hot. And now people are jumping to, the suburbs, and now people are going tertiary. So we're seeing basically the pebble drop in a pond and these ripples like cascade out. The equity's pushing out. And so now we're seeing some of our better deals are in markets where I don't even remember, or I didn't know prior to purchasing these properties where they were. But we're seeing like in Summertown, which is a deal that we did months ago, Summertown, Tennessee, which is a really, really small town, but now a double wide on land might be $140,000. That one we bought for 25, but 3, 4, 5 years ago, it might have been 60 or 75, so we're seeing these equity pockets pop
and
up
we'll
really
do
all over.
15 on Summertown. The rehab will be about 15,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, really a nice deal. But we're seeing these equity pockets kind of pop up all over the place, which is really interesting. But we're seeing that in parts of Alabama as well. It doesn't matter what the property is as long as we're buying equity. That's a litmus test that we have is, can we make a reasonable gain on the property, right? All right. So what's next?
Well, before I get into this next one, Tony mentioned a while ago that I helped him out with Calera, but one thing I like about this team is we all work together. We all help each other out, and I'm really looking forward to everybody going and getting trained and everything. But this particular deal, Tony's helped me out tremendously. Of course, I can't tell you exactly how, but we'll talk about that in private.
But I keep telling him I have.
But so this lead came in, and I called the lady up.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, you'll find out.
Okay.
So I called the lady up, and she was all about telling me how beautiful her house was, how it only needed like maybe $1,000 worth of repairs, and everything was great. And we got to talking about the numbers, and then she said, "Oh yeah, by the way, my house is getting sold tomorrow on the courthouse steps."
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
And she's getting foreclosed on. So that kind of put a monkey wrench in the plans. So I thought. So we ended up taking the house sub 2 on the mortgage, 200, and giving her 5 on the walkaway. We think it's probably going to be a 350 exit. So Tony helped me out by getting the sale moved a little bit, right, Tony?
Yeah, so we got it moved back.
Yeah. So now we're working on getting that taken care of. That's a real sweet deal. I mean, it's a really nice house, brick house. And like I said, 350 exit and sub 2 on the mortgage. So
Very
good deal
nice.
on that.
Yeah, really good.
In Sellersburg, Indiana.
Yeah, which is north of Louisville, Kentucky.
Yep.
Okay. So I remember one thing about this one that was kind of interesting. There's raccoons in the attic. Right?
Yeah.
Or squirrels?
The raccoons, she said.
Raccoons.
Yeah,
okay.
they were at one time, yeah.
Okay. So they can wreak some havoc. But
You remember we had that one in Antioch that had raccoons in it. We had to bring in a crew to remove them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Hey, nothing's worse than those bats that Tony dealt with a few months back.
Oh, yeah. In Sylacauga, Alabama.
Yeah.
Bats of Sylacauga.
Yeah. So that's one of the deals pre-foreclosure like we're seeing again. So we were really happy to pick that one up. All right. What's next?
So the next one came in on the same day as the Sellersburg deal. It's like a totally opposite end of the spectrum. So this was in Sneedville, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
Don't ask me where that's at, but it's out in the middle.
Tennessee.
Is it East Tennessee? Oh, that's right. Your neighbor is right there. But, this is a 27 acres. 27 acres. We got it for 45 cash. We're thinking 130, maybe more on the exit on that. So that's a good deal.
How many acres?
27.
Plus a house.
Plus a house. Yeah. Can't forget the house.
Yeah.
For how much?
45.
Boy, I didn't know that.
So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
I think
Deals are out there, guys.
Now you owe me a steak.
So what about the next one, Tony? I think that was yours, man.
So,
Okay.
by the way, on that one, we're going to owner finance it.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's not a property that we want to take retail. So, we're going to owner finance it. We can generally get a little bit higher of a price with owner financing. So, maybe it's 140, get $10,000, $15,000 down. We bought it for 45. So, let's say we have $30,000 tied up in a $130,000 note, something like that. Okay. So, there's not many things that are worth 130 that I wouldn't pay 30 for, but luckily this cash flows. So like this is playing the long game. So I look at this business as really being both a short game and the long game. And what I mean by that is this, like I'm not a wholesaler. I don't wholesale at all. I think that that's the rat race of real estate investing. And with that, a lot of what we're doing right now, because the prices are so high, is we're taking them retail and taking the cash. That's a short game. So we want your cash needs to be met. But at the same time, unless we're building assets, we're really not getting ahead. And what I mean by assets is something that pays you cash flow each month. So some of these deals we're going to take retail and take the cash. Some of these details we're going to take the note, and we're creating long-term income and a long-term legacy. So the notes, I don't know when they're going to cash out. I don't know. It's not, I kind of look at it as being just kind of like money in a retirement account. So I'm 35 years old. I hope I have 40, 50 years before I retire. I love this business. But I really look at the owner finance notes as being something that I can't really touch the cash. But I mean, you can't do that in a retirement account or a CD or anything like that anyway. But we're cash flowing really, really well.
Yeah.
So that's what our exit is on that one.
And what investment are you going to put your money in where you're going to get 7, 8, 9% on your money?
Well, not only that, but it's 7, 8, 9% on the 130.
Yeah.
But we basically bought that note of 130,000 on this deal for 30K. So the yield on our 30 is like 30, 40%. So it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's look at Morristown, Tennessee. So, yeah. So this one has an ARV of 200-ish.
Yeah, I think a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
We wound up giving 58 for it.
Unless I'm thinking about the wrong Morristown. It might have been 58 cash at closing.
58 cash at closing.
Okay.
And we took what? How much do we have?
It was
We still have this in
125
place,
total, I think.
Yeah. So
We just paid cash on it.
So it would have been 125, 50, 75, about 60 something. I think it was 64. Okay, we took sub 2. Does that sound right?
Well, we ended up just paying cash because the 58 cash at closing was enough to where we just extinguished the first.
Do you remember what we paid cash for it?
125.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that's what I got there. 125.
Yeah.
Two. All right. So, and then that is 20, maybe 25 on a rehab, but I think we can do it for 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And we looked at it. It was one that at first I kicked back and I said, hey, you know, I don't think so. Ended up, we had 500 or 600 more square feet than what we thought.
Yeah. The entire basement, which is in good shape and has a nice enough ceiling, was all finished out and they weren't counting.
Yeah. So that helps. That helps.
It does help.
So I guess, are they out of that one?
They're out of it. And we didn't have to clean it out. He cleaned it out for us.
Cool.
And the painting starts on it this week.
Cool.
This and another one. I'll throw these two together since they're going to be rehabbed about the same time. Alpine Circle in Greenville. This was we from time to time get a hoarder house.
Yes.
And they're tough. They're tough to clean out on. This was a sad situation, but we have a crew that'll go into hoarder houses and clean them out for us, and they did. And just the before and after on the clean out was unreal. So they're going to rehab Alpine and Morristown at the same time this next week starting. So the ARV on Alpine Circle is about $225. The walkaway was 68, and there was a lien for about 10, but I think we just paid it cash, didn't we?
No, we bought that sub 2.
Oh, the sub 2 is 68.
Okay.
And we paid 10 cash.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
So I got all these together this morning. So sub 2. And the cash is 10. So we've got majority of our money, we're paying for it in a very low interest loan, $10,000 cash at closing. That's about a $20,000 to $23,000, $24,000, maybe $20,000 to $25,000 on the rehab, and an ARV of $225.
So we'll be all in at 100, going to 225 exit cash. So we'll probably net 100, 110K. And
some of you may ask, why would you take something subject to if you're not going to own or finance it? Well, if we don't take that $68,000 sub 2 at 3% interest, 3.25% interest, then we're going to have to borrow that money at 15% interest from a hard money lender.
Right.
And we're going to be paying out monthly on that. So we might as well take it subject to, once we sell it retail, it's going to be paid off that time anyway. So, I mean, James and I talk about this all the time. You should always sub to everything you can, regardless of what your in exit is going to be, because you're saving yourself money, whether you're going to keep it in place or whether you're going to retail out.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on that's the first issue. The second is the ability to scale. So, I mean, everybody has a limited amount of resources in terms of how many transactions they can do at a time. So, I mean, whether that's numbers 1 at a time or 10 or 150 at a time, I mean, that would be up to you. But us taking over these kinds of liens, it cheapens our cost. But what it does really is we can take the same amount of cash and credit and go and do, 5, 6, 7 times the amount of deals at the same time in terms of purchasing. And so let's talk about this situation for just a second, because my understanding is that the guys that clean out a lot of our houses, they called you, right? And what did they say?
They said, even we kind of don't want to do this. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
How bad it is?
Yeah.
Even we don't want to do this one. And they're like Mikey. If you're my age, he'll eat anything. I mean, it was terrible. There were 2 holes in the roof. And so there was active water coming in while an elderly couple was living there.
It's just terrible.
And their family knew nothing about it. Their family lived out of town. They did not know it was in this bad of shape. They weren't telling them. But there was water coming in every time it rained. They had a little blue plastic Walmart swimming pool in the kitchen floor that was catching the water from the hole in the kitchen. Every room, I'm 6'8", and every room it was head high to me, the stuff stacked up. So normally, we'll have dry hoarder houses and they're easy to clean out. But a wet one is very difficult, because then you run into mold, there were dead animals throughout the house. There were a couple of cats that had passed away and they were put in dresser drawers. I mean, it was just a difficult spot. for them to live in. Just a little bitty, in Winchester, we had a hoarder house, but it was all dry, and they would have a little bitty.
I remember that. Yeah.
They would have a little bitty path going from the bathroom to the kitchen to the place. And people like that normally will sleep in the chairs that they have in there. They normally sit in the daytime. They'll just sleep there at night because they can't get into the bedrooms. And it is extremely sad. And we try to go into that, even trying to save stuff that they may not know is there anymore.
Yeah.
Or photographs for family members, because it's usually a family member who's selling us the house at that time. So it was a difficult spot, but it's going to be it's done the family that needed to get rid of that house. There's no way they could have ever sold it on the market.
No.
And they'd already had people tell them no, investors tell them no, because they didn't want to clean it out.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And so for us, it's going to be a good deal, and we've helped them out as well.
So my understanding is it was a husband and wife, and then the wife passed away first,
Mm-hmm.
and then the husband was there, and his whole family didn't know how he was living.
Right.
And then he passed away.
Yeah.
Right? And then they came in and really, I guess, felt a lot of guilt.
It was terrible. They felt horrible. But at that point, I mean, there's really nothing they could do.
There's nothing that they could do, and he didn't reach out for help. And I've seen this kind of situation in my own family when I had a great uncle that passed away, and it wasn't nearly like this, but nobody could really believe that Uncle Ellis would live that way. But that's just how he was living. So sometimes we can really help people, and those are the best deals when, I mean, we're doing fine financially, yes, but for us to be able to help this person that inherited this problem that other people said no to, and I can't for the life of me understand why. It was a terrible situation. I mean, my understanding is that the guys that went in to clean it out, they went in, they smelled the smell, they walked out and threw up.
Yeah.
And we've never had that happen. I mean, we've been in some really nasty houses where we throw the clothes away, but I mean, this one was really bad. And to be able to take that problem for someone, pay them some cash, they don't have to worry about it anymore, but also take that house and revitalize it. And this is a nice neighborhood.
It is a nice neighborhood.
So
and
the neighbors
were coming over and saying thank you.
Yeah.
And they weren't being ugly about the folks that lived there. They felt bad about it too. But
yeah, people
it's going
just
to help everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's go to something a little bit happier, maybe.
All right, here you go. I got one for you. Columbus, Mississippi. So this lady is a retired faculty member of the Ole Miss. For Ole Miss fans out there, a lot better than Alabama, by the way. And she started at 60. It was a double wide on an acre. She started at 60, and I kept.
How much did she come down just immediately?
Went from 60 to 50, and then I was ready to just, I was pretty much cutting her off because I was going to give 50 for it. And the third time I asked her the lowest she'll take, and she went down to 30.
Okay. So half.
So then I started thinking about the structure of the deal. And what we ended up doing is, getting her 15 at closing and 15 at $300 a month until paid. So she ended up tickled to death with that, and we closed on that this weekend, as a matter of fact. So
cool. Awesome. I guess I knew that. I don't know if I did or not.
15 at closing and 15
at $300 a month until paid.
Yeah.
So 0% interest loan.
Yep.
That's a lot better than those bank loans that a lot of you are getting in. So we highly recommend 0% interest if you can get it. So we're going to owner finance that one as well. So this is one we don't want to go and do a rehab on. It's good enough to sell owner finance the way it is. And so we're just going to sell it owner finance, take the note, and have a nice little note there.
Good work, James.
Thank you, Tony. So this next one here is in LaGrange, Georgia. Now this is a deal that, it took us a minute to get some good comps in here, if you recall.
It was a tough one. Yeah. I remember.
She wouldn't go for sub 2. She wouldn't go for something else some later. She wanted $230,000 all cash. We were thinking, that it was going to be something different, but we ended up talking her into sub 2 on it with $7,000 on the walkaway. But, again, we just couldn't find the value in it. So we had to cancel that deal, after about 2 or 3 weeks, which is like Brad said, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But we just couldn't find the value there. Her mortgage was so high. Even if we took it sub 2, we wasn't going to get what we needed to get out of it.
So is this the one where the husband passed away?
Yes.
So we ended up renegotiating this.
Yeah, that's going to be on next month's deal. I didn't know if you want. That's why I asked if you want to mention it twice or not. But yeah, we ended up renegotiating it.
Okay, so let's talk about the renegotiation.
Yeah, so we ended up renegotiating it, and we did take it sub 2 with it was nothing on the walkaway, is what I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
can you help me out? Remember that?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yep. So we ended up doing it sub 2, but we're still working through that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So husband passed away. She can't make the payments anymore. And we're just going to take over her loan and figure out what we're going to do with it. I don't know. We could retail it and make money, maybe 40 or 50. I'm thinking maybe this is better as an owner finance or maybe even as a rental, although I'm not a big rental guy. The property's perfect. And it's a pretty big house. And this is, I wouldn't say really a suburb of Atlanta, but I mean, Atlanta's definitely moving that direction. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, I know, Tony, you don't have but a few more, so I'm going to.
Yeah, can you handle some more of your vast portfolio?
So this next one was out in the country, right outside Knoxville, Tennessee, Go Vols, in Rockwood, Tennessee. Now this one here, she had a mortgage, and this was an inheritance issue, and she had got it from her father that had passed away, and then her stepmother was really wreaking havoc on her. Her stepmother called electricity, got it cut off, called the water, got it cut off while she was living there with her kids. So it was just a big issue. So she's trying to get out and go to Texas just as fast as she can. I don't know what's in Texas, but so she started with 20,000, walkway. She said she had to have money to get her to Texas. She had 116 on the mortgage, and sub two.
It takes 20K to get to Texas, by the way.
Sub two on the mortgage was not a big deal, but the 20K on the walkway was just terrible. So I kept going with her about the condition of it and how lowest she'd take on it. So we ended up. She ended up accepting 0 walkaway.
Wait a minute. What happened with 20K to get to Texas? She was
not coming off of 20?
She wasn't coming off 20 until, I kept talking to her about the condition of the house and the lowest she'd take. Finally, she said, I just got to get out of here. So she went from 20 to 0 on one phone call. So we took it 116 mortgage sub two. It's on an acre lot, permanent foundation. Closing on that, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Cool. Again, this is going to be an owner finance. Do we know the rate on the underlying?
I don't know it exactly.
I don't remember either. I think it's pretty darn cheap because she just bought it a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it was in the 3s or 4s on the percentage.
Yeah, so we're basically buying it at 116.
Yes, sir.
At say 4%. We'll sell it on our finance at 8%. We're going to make just as much money as the bank is without having to lend the money, right? We'll create the note, create the cash flow, throw it into the portfolio, and let it ride. So that's playing the long game.
I'm going to do this one for, and then I'm going to let you go.
Yeah.
Okay. But this has got to be the best one of the whole day.
Okay.
For those of you that are familiar with Brad's group, I'm sure you remember a deal we had in Bristol, Tennessee. On Anderson
boy.
and this was back in like November, I believe, or November, December of last year when this deal first come around. And so we ended up, long story short, we had to get a survey because the survey was really old. So we had to get a land survey. He was real good with that. They put some stakes in his land. It was really cold. And I think our seller got a little intoxicated and he made a few phone calls. I'm sure you remember a lot of beeps.
All right, so let's cut in here and let's put the voicemail in. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Hello, James Garland. This is Paul Phelps, 1014 Anderson. I don't appreciate the god mother. Hey, contract was closed out February 17th. Null and void. It is not renewed. You don't go on my god property and do what you want to do. I'll get you all. I don't have to say you jack. Give me a call back. I'll beat your goddamn heads in. 423-609-9670. Make your goddamn place. Don't go on my property. I tell ya.
So that's the voicemail that we got on this deal. So James, take it away.
So under advice of Brad and our attorney, we decided to just let this gentleman lay low for a while. So we filed a memo on his title. And again, this was November, December of last year, maybe January. I can't recall, but it was cold. And then this past month shows up as a lead. Oh, I forgot about one thing. In between that time and this time, one of Brad's apprentices posted on the page.
Yeah, good old.
Hey, I got this deal in Bristol.
Yeah, good old Justin Rogers. Sorry, Justin, but yeah.
And so I said, wouldn't happen to be, and I mentioned the guy's name, and he said, "Oh, it sure was." So anyway, so that, Justin didn't buy it. Well, next thing you know, it pops up as a lead for me. So I called Brad. I'm like, "Look at this. Should I look at his lead? Should I call?" Brad said, "Probably not." And I said, "What the heck?" So I called the guy. I think I communicated via text or email first, but then we ended up talking and sweet as he could be.
What changed? What could possibly change?
Well, it was the season, Brad.
Okay.
It was the change of the season.
Right.
He informed me that during the winter times and cold months up in East Tennessee, it's brown liquor time. And that was the brown liquor talking. Now it's summertime now, and it's beer time, so you don't talk like that when you're under beer. So but here's the deal, though. We had him originally. We had him for like $30,000, right, for the house. And when I called him back next time, he goes, "The only problem is James almost 75." So I said, I'm trying not to say his name. I said, "Hey, well, tell me something. What did you do between November and now to make it worth $45,000 more dollars?" And he says, "Nothing." He said, "Okay, James, I'll take 30, but I got to close in 2 weeks." And I said, "No problem." So we got him at 30,000, close in 2 weeks. The exit on that, I'm thinking 175, 180 once we get it rehab.
Yeah, it's going to be a bigger rehab. Yeah, it's going to be a bigger rehab, but that's okay. I mean, we have the margins for it. So,
but that was a deal that we thought was just going in the wind. That we'd never hear from again.
I feel like I kind of felt like it would circle back around. I mean, one of the things about what do we call those people? Like erratic. Erratic people is they usually get back to some sense of reality at some point. And so we filed the memorandum of contract, which basically clouds title from them selling it to someone else. And so my assumption, I don't know this, my assumption is somebody else probably had it under contract. They said, "Hey, you've got it under contract with these other people. They've clouded title. You're stuck." And then he kind of came to us hat in hand. And I thought it was really amazing that he said, "Oh, did he ever really say sorry, or was he just kind of like..."
The word sorry never came out of his mouth, but you could tell that, he knew he did something wrong.
I mean, I'd be pretty damn embarrassed to do something like that and then, have to come back around. So that's a fun one. I wouldn't say it's our best deal of the month.
No, it wasn't our best deal, but it was our most interesting.
It was our most interesting deal, I'd say.
All right. Well, Tony, you got another in there? I mean, I got a few
more.
Let
me do this. I'm gonna throw in 2 quick ones right here that we actually wound up not taking. We got them under contract, and then we decided no. So the first one is McMullen in Cresaptown, Maryland.
Yes, this was interesting.
Yeah. So this one, ARV was 90, cash at closing was 51, a rehab was going to be about 20. But he was struggling with it, having a hard time because it was had been family property.
Yeah.
And so once we got, I got a message that said that if we went through with this, he was going to take his own life.
Yeah.
At that point, Brad said, "Cut him loose."
Yeah.
We're not interested in that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And to jump in, I mean, if a seller decides that they don't want to sell to us, they want to keep the house, we allow that 100%. But what we do is we offer them a 10-year first right of refusal. And so effectively, if at any point in the next 10 years they want to go and sell the property, they have to sell it to us at the same price. If they really want to keep the property, and this is family property, this is where they want to live out the rest of their life or whatever, hey, that's fine. We've never actually had someone do that.
Mm-hmm.
It almost always comes down to the money. But, it was not a great deal for us in the first. I mean, I say that we're 50% of value, but I mean, it wasn't great, fantastic deal. So it's like, hey, we got better stuff. Let's just charge it to the game and move on.
Right. Second one came from a wholesaler in Rogersville, Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
So I happen to be in North Alabama, so I thought, well, I'll go by Rogersville and see this house, So I did, and it was a 100-year-old house as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I live in an 82-year-old house, so, I mean, they can be...
Yeah, great.
They can be great houses. That's not a problem. But this one, the numbers look like this. The ARV, at first, I had a number for. The cash at closing was $63,000. Okay. That didn't bother me that much till I realized that the rehab was $1.2 million. At that point, who cares about the ARV? It doesn't really matter.
Say that one more time.
This entire house was basically gutted. It was a shell, but the entire thing was gutted pretty much on the inside, except he told me it had 2 beautiful fireplaces in it. And it did. It just didn't have nothing else. And so it didn't matter what we'd have paid for that. He could have paid us $20 for it, and we still couldn't afford to do anything with it. So we let that one go. So that handles my 2 cancels. And you go ahead, James. I got 2 more left on my list. And I know you
only got about 20. No, I'm just kidding. I only got about 6 left. But so this next one is right around the corner from my house. It's 25 miles from the house in Liberty, Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
She calls me up, and she's born and raised in the double wide on an acre. And her father had passed away, and she just wanted to get out. And so we're getting it for 80, but the kicker is it's on a 1 acre plot. It's got a little creek, but it's got a nice garage, this concrete floor, electric in it. But then the kicker to it all is a mile down the street is a 2-acre plot that she has that goes with the land. So it's a total of 3 acres. So we're still working on that. It was, the title wasn't in her name. She's got it in her name now. But the biggest issue is trying to find where the 2 acres is. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it is out in the country. Tony,
I think I know where it is.
Yeah, I think I do
the
too.
2 acres.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to find out where that 2 acres is, see if we can do anything with that. But I'm looking forward to doing that. And again, Tony's helping me out a lot with that one. I appreciate that, Tony.
Well, it was. I was going to be out there for another one, so it was easy just to stop by and see it. And it really, I mean, the garage. Don't get confused if this is some small little detached car garage.
Oh no.
Somebody could run a really nice mechanic business out of this, or anything else, a woodworking shop. It is as big as the house.
So we're thinking just the lot, just the 1 acre lot is like 140 exit. We're thinking maybe, right? 140, 150?
I mean, I think so. If I can get some cooperation from higher power.
I'm kind of pushing back on his values a little bit.
But let me just say something about that. James and I, we're trying to get them under contract, the good deals for us. And so when we kind of come to a conclusion, we think this is a good one. And then most of the time we get from Brad, yeah, great, write that one up. But sometimes we get pushback. But if you don't have somebody pushing you back on these deals, you're going to buy some that you're going to regret. We should never be afraid to have any kind of pushback on anything we're doing in our business. So it's really important. Now we do pushback on the pushback sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does well. And other times we'll come back with our pushback on the pushback, and we will then realize we need to let this go.
And at this point, we just get confused as to what we're doing.
That's right.
All right. So let me jump in here because, James, this one was down the street from you. I mean, down the street 25 miles away. But it feels down the street when you're buying regionally, effectively. So did you buy this one on the phone or in person?
On phone.
Okay. So Tony, since he's been with me for so long, we used to go to every appointment in person, and it came to a point when I found that to be very not necessary. So almost everything that we buy now, certainly above 80%, is done over the phone. And so we contract it based on what we know. We get a home inspection, we get the values, all of that, to figure out what we don't know. Are you guys surprised that we can buy a house with equity in one phone call with terms? Because I think that's something that you kind of struggled with whenever you came back into purchasing, because you'd always done it the old way. And I think that that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, I'm still having to correct some things for me now, because I did all of them on site. I mean, I had my little pad in front of me and went through the whole deal. And I felt comfortable because I could cover so many things. I could inspect at the same time I was doing different things. And when I went and did our rehabs for 2 years, during that time, you brought James on, and you taught James the new way, and he started buying sight unseen over the phone. So by the time we brought somebody back in to do our owner financing then, and I started buying again, the whole game had changed for me. And so I'm over here going, James, how are you doing this, man, without seeing these, without doing that? So it is, I do like when we get one close by, because I ride out there and see it,
Yeah, he enjoys that.
But I'm transitioning now to where most of them I'm buying over the phone. And it does surprise me now it did it first.
Well, one interesting thing I think about buying over the phone is kind of eliminates the possibility of them selling to someone else before we get out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a couple of these deals that I've done over the phone, they've actually had people scheduled to come visit them.
Oh, yeah.
But yet they take my deal over the phone. If I would have waited, then I could have possibly missed out on the deal. So that's one thing I like about it.
Yeah, I am now too.
It's been great for me. Like that one that's 25 miles from the house, I probably could have went and visited her and sat down with her and done the deal in person.
Yeah.
But she was ready to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so if she's ready, I'm ready.
So one thing there, we're always going to be better with our negotiation in person. So if you have 10 leads a month and they're all in your hometown, please go see those people in person, okay? But whenever you have mass lead flow, we're going to be better overall in terms of purchasing if we go fast. So we don't have to be as effective because we have more opportunity. And so you can kind of decide where you are in that. But here's the hierarchy of beliefs that I think I talked about in the last case study. So whenever I first started in this business, I came from the world of selling real estate. I got my real estate license when I was 18. And whenever I began to do the investing side, here's kind of what I believed. I said, well, nobody's going to let me take over a loan in their name and transfer title. That's just not going to happen. And then that started to happen. And then I thought, well, it's 2010, it's 2011. People really don't have an option. They're behind on payments. Nobody's going to sell a house to me at 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar. And then that happened. And then I thought, well, that happened, but That's because they still need the money. Nobody's going to have a free and clear property and give me 0% owner finance terms on it. And then that happened. And then I thought, well, all of this is happening because we've got it down to a science. We're that good in person. We can't just do this on the phone. And then that happened. And we started buying just stuff over the phone. And the first one really that it happened with was that Bristol triplex, if you remember that.
Oh,
because it was like 5 hours away. He owned it free and clear. And I was like, I just don't want to go 5 hours to run an appointment. Let's just do it over the phone. And I did that myself. And I was like, wow, that worked. He didn't care. And then it came down to nobody's going to call us with a free and clear piece of property for free until that happened. And so now I don't know where where's my hierarchy of belief systems at. I guess nobody's going to call me with a very valuable piece of property and offer me a check to take it, but maybe one day, right? So anyway, we can do this on the phone almost as effectively as we can in person. And it just allows us to go a lot faster with scale. All right, so what do we got next?
So the next is a little strange. It was in Bay Minette, Alabama. This was a divorce situation. That was the reason they were selling. And so I was immediately to get on it. I called right away, got the guy on the phone. He told me situation, getting a divorce, had to get rid of it. I already knew the ARV was going to be somewhere around 120, 130. So I was kind of, thinking about what his offer was going to be. He come out first with 60, and then I talked him down to 40. And of course, it was an all cash deal. But with an exit of 120, I figured we could do the 40 cash. So I got that typed up, sent it to him. The next day, I got a phone call from the exact same number that I had called, and he said that he was the man's father. And that the man I had talked to that I bought the house from didn't own the house, that he and his 4 brothers owned it. So 5 brothers had owned it. And I asked him about the divorce, and he didn't know anything about a divorce. Pretty much cussed me out, said, I'll sue you, don't call me no more. So we're still working that out. It's at the title company. We're trying to figure out whose name it's in. I haven't heard back yet, so that's still kind of in limbo. So don't look like that's going to come to fruition, but something will happen with it.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, so another deal is in Ardmore, Tennessee, country town. Got the ARV of about 170 on this deal. Took it at 111 mortgage subject to, with 20,000 on the walkaway, and the home inspection came back, and that looks pretty clean. It's a brick house. The motivation on that guy, it was the same as the previous one. It's a divorce. So, he just had to get out of the house. And the 20 walkaway, he's going to split with his wife. So everybody's happy. So that's the deal on that one.
So I got 2, and then you got 3 more?
That's correct.
All right, I'll do these 2, and then you can finish us up.
All right.
So the first one is Dickens Hill Road up here in Bradyville, Tennessee. It's another one just outside of Murfreesboro, and we hardly ever get anything in Rutherford County.
Right.
Just because it's such a hot market, and people are just clamoring over folks to buy their houses from them. So and we're not going to clamor. We're non-clamorers. So Dickens Hill's Bradyville's pretty area. It's a strange thing when you get out there. It's kind of a shared driveway. And then it comes off that shared driveway, and then all of a sudden you see 2 double-wide manufactured homes about 75 feet away from each other. And they look like they're on the same lot, and they are. So this piece of property actually, once I got out there, comes with 2 houses. And as it turns out, we're most likely going to be able to divide that into 2 lots. So we'll have a house on each lot, which means our return on our value goes way up. So the ARV on it is going to wind up being about 150 to 160 on one, and about 125 to 135 on the other. So we're buying it as one package, selling it as 2. So it kind of almost doubles our cash. So we're paying $50,000 for the whole property, $50,000 for 2 homes. So $25,000 cash at closing, and $25,000 in payments of $1,000 a month until it's paid for. So we'll pay $50,000 for it, and its ARV is probably we'll do $25,000 a piece in the rehabs on it.
And $25,000 is interest-free money.
Oh yes. Interest-free money on the $25,000 in payments. So this one will do really well. And people don't think, when they're buying manufactured homes, they think, well, this is not a nice deal, but that's because you're thinking about a house and not about equity. Right. We buy equity. We don't buy houses. So it's the return on our investment that is is what we're looking for. So I guess the last one I have is on Airport Lake Road in McMinnville, Tennessee.
That's another town close by.
Another town close by. A good situation. The ARV on it is, this was a couple and they just want to move. They were behind on their mortgage. They're tired of dealing with that mortgage company. So they wanted to move. So the ARV on it is about $200,000. We paid $87,000 for it, cash at closing. We'll put 20 in it. So we'll have about $107,000 in it and sell it for about $200,000. So that's not a bad one.
I'd say that's a deal.
That's a good deal. So those are my last two, James, for July.
All right. Well, I got three more. So, got one in Savannah, Georgia. So we're still trying to work that out. He hasn't went to probate or any of that. So we're trying to work that out with him right now. But we're looking at taking the mortgage of 94 sub 2 and giving him 15 at closing. And again, the ARV is around 150 on that one.
So 110, ARV's by 150. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So not a killer deal, but the fact that that you're taking it sub 2 and the interest rate on it was a 2.8%.
Now, how much we taking sub 2?
94,000.
Okay.
Yep.
And only 10 at closing.
Yep. Well,
So
15 at closing.
It's a great owner finance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now, the next one, we ended up having to cancel this one because we couldn't find the value. It's in Pritchard, Alabama. And again, he wanted 140 all cash. I tried to come back to him and restructure the deal, but we found the ARV to be, maybe 165, 170. And with 140 cash investment, that just didn't seem to click.
So we cancel it.
So we canceled that deal. And then this very last deal is going to be a great equity gainer. I mean, we're looking at it probably 100 to 125 on the exit. It was a 20-year-old mobile home. The couple brought it brand new. They placed it on there on a permanent foundation on an acre of land. Her husband passed away, and she just wants to move up north to be with her family. She started off, her price was $13,000. And I thought to myself, $13,000, that's a great deal. But I had to ask that question. You know what that question is?
One time.
Yeah. Is
that
that the
least?
lowest you'd take on it?
The lowest you'd take.
Is that the least you'd take on it? And she said, well, I'll take 10. So we bought that for $10,000 cash.
And what, are we going to put anything in it? It's in great shape.
It's in great shape. There, it had the air conditioner on top of the unit, and it had a leak in the air conditioner at one time, and it came down and it dripped on the floor and put a hole in the floor. They covered it with plywood. Mm-hmm. That's the only repair that's needed in that house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 2 full baths, got the sunken tub and all that separate shower. So that's a great deal. And again, on an acre of land.
Oh, wow.
So what else you want to talk about, Tony?
Well, it's kind of interesting. You were talking about that one. I thought I'd share about Lithonia, Georgia. So from time to time, you're going to have one like this. We bought a house in Lithonia, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Actually, it's a part of greater Atlanta. And we had it rehabbed. Mm-hmm. Probably spent $25,000 on it, rehabbing the thing. It's a nice house. It's actually split level when you walk in. It's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house. Mm-hmm. And we sold it immediately to a REIT. We sold it to them for full price. And we got a day before closing, and they were doing their final walkthrough. And when they opened the front door, the entire interior of the house had been vandalized. Oh. I mean, I wish I could show you the video right now. We may work that video in if Brad wants to do that. But I've never seen a house so vandalized in my 7-8 years of doing this with Brad. Never have seen that. And so we're having to rehab it again. Now we're rehabbing the rehab. They spray painted on the walls everywhere. They knocked out entire sheets of drywall. I mean, the only kitchen cabinets are just ripped to pieces. We're going to have to try to remove the granite off of them and then get kitchen cabinets back the same sizes. New kitchen cabinets the same sizes so we can reuse the granite. And that's if we can get the spray paint off the granite. So it may be more of a rehab now than it was the first time.
Yeah.
And so
the funny thing is, when I bought that house, the very next day after I had her under contract, she signed the agreement. She called me. She said, well, my dad says I'm not getting enough for the property. I want to cancel it. So I was really new then. Not that I'm not new now, but yeah. So I called Brad. I said, what do you do? So he gave me the 3 choices. So I called her up. I gave her 3 choices. I said, you signed a 10-year right of refusal, sell it to us to this price, and I told her 3 choices. And she said, when can I get my money? So we set a closing date as quick as we could and closed on it. And it's funny that.
Yeah. I want to say this, though, about James just saying that I'm still new. One of the things that has been helpful for James and I is that we don't have a background in real estate. nor do we have a background in investing through a different model. So we didn't have anything to unlearn. When Brad said, here's what you do, you stick to this script. I don't care what happens. I don't care what they say. You just stick to this script. So when you don't know no better, you know what you do? You stick to that script.
Yep.
And so, but that is why we're able to buy, is because we stick to the script. The power is in the way that script is written. And it's not written to take anything from somebody else that they don't want to give. It is written to help solve their problem. They come in motivated because they have some problem. If they don't come in with a problem, they're not motivated. And you're not going to want that deal.
Right.
Because they're not motivated. There's not a deal there. But you can still, we stay on those calls because you can still learn something from those calls. But when they come in motivated, and you will let that script walk them through you being able to solve their problem, and that's what the script does. The script's not written to take something from them. They call wanting to give you something, their problem. The script is written to help them hand you the problem, and that problem is in that house. It's in that house and its mortgage. So stick to that script. I don't care what they say. You just look right back down and keep going through that script. And if they are motivated, and if it is a deal that will work, if there's a way you can help take that problem from them, the script will let you do it.
Yep.
You got anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. We'll see you. Same bad time, same bad channel.
All right, guys. So just to recap, we did $1.13 million in equity position in 1 month in our business. And so you don't get to that point without learning a few things along the way and having a lot of intention with how you do things, right? One of the most important things to me is to be able to create the success in these systems that have created this type of success, but also impart that to other people. So here's my invitation. Is if you're currently struggling in your business, maybe you don't know how to find motivated seller leads, or be found, I should say, when motivated sellers are looking for you. Maybe you don't really understand how to negotiate, how to go from the front door to the contract in a way that's seamless, that's scripted, so you know that path every single time. Or maybe you don't really understand the deal structure. We talked about subject to and how to create 0% owner finance, and talking about creating owner financing on our sales and wraps and those kinds of things. If that's all foreign to you, then I would submit to you that you're missing more than you're capturing. And so even if you have been trying to go it alone, it's going to be a really tough road. And I see this really all the time with other investors. And so here's my invitation is, if you want help in your business, then reach out to me. Okay. I do calls myself as an invitation to the apprenticeship. And the apprenticeship is a program that I created based on the needs that I saw in the education industry in real estate, because there's so much bad information out there. Either you have people that aren't active in the business right now, they don't know how to navigate this really strong seller's market, or it's a position where they were successful in the past, but they don't really understand what works today. And so with that, if this is something that you're interested in applying to be a part of the apprenticeship, where me and you work together to create these kinds of results, then email us at support@bradsmotherman.com. Tasha will send you an application and we'll review that, see if you might be a fit for the apprenticeship. And if you are, then you and I are going to jump on a call. So we'll spend about an hour together, go through what's working in your business, what's not working, and I'll see if I can help. And if I can help, then we'll talk about how the apprenticeship works. And if I can't, then I'll really do the best that I can to point you in the right direction based on what you're hoping to accomplish. So I hope this was impactful. We really enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Otherwise, if you'd like to apply, reach out to us at support@bradsmotherman.com. We'll see you guys next time. Maybe it'll be 2 million our next shoot. Thank you.